My palms were sweaty, heart racing. Months of late nights had led up to this boardroom pitch. I'd perfected every detail. As Mr. Daniels stood, my pulse quickened. He cleared his throat and began speaking my words, presenting my slides, every idea mine. "And thanks to my leadership, we secured the multi-million-dollar client," he declared. Shock slapped me in the face. Not once did he glance my way. The board clapped, praising Daniels as if I was invisible. The room spun, anger burning deep in my chest. After everyone filed out, Daniels caught my eye briefly, a cold smirk playing on his lips. "You did good work," he whispered casually. "But this is business." Betrayal sliced through me sharp and cold. Outside the conference room, colleagues congratulated him enthusiastically. No one acknowledged me. My dreams, promotions, and recognition, stolen in a single moment. As I drove home, gripping the wheel tightly, I felt tears sting my eyes. Daniels thought he'd won. But deep inside, I knew I wasn't done yet. I refused to be erased like this. A single thought echoed through my mind. I won't let him get away with this. 2 days later, my nightmare came true. My phone buzzed early. Bleary-eyed, I opened our company newsletter and saw Mr. Daniels smiling broadly on the front page. The headline burned into my memory: "Visionary executive lands record-breaking contract." But the real knife in the back was deeper down. Buried casually in the text, Daniels also announced the promotion of his nephew, Kyle Daniels, to senior strategist, recognizing his significant contributions to the project. Kyle? The intern I'd practically trained from scratch? The one who struggled to complete basic reports without my help? My stomach churned, and heat flushed my cheeks. The injustice felt suffocating. My phone pinged again, a message from my friend Clara in marketing. "This is messed up. Are you okay?" I didn't know how to reply. Okay didn't describe the anger, humiliation, and betrayal I felt, but it lit something else, a fire deep in my chest. My fingers shook as I typed back, "Not yet, but I will be." I stared at the screen, determination replacing despair. Daniels had underestimated me. Now he and his nephew would learn just how far I'd go to reclaim my rightful place. At midnight, my apartment was silent except for the hum of my laptop. I clicked through folders of documents. Months of notes, strategies, revisions. Each file brought back memories of endless coffee-fueled nights. One email from Daniels stood out clearly. "Georgia, exceptional work. You're driving this project. Can't wait to see you present." It hurt to read, knowing he'd planned to steal my moment all along. My cursor hovered over a folder labeled Final Pitch. Inside were emails, Slack messages, and recorded Zoom calls proving I'd created every piece. I replayed a clip from a call where Kyle stumbled through basic project details. My voice gently corrected him again and again, patient but firm. Yet, he'd gotten the reward. I tasted bitterness. But bitterness wouldn't help me now. Action would. As the clock ticked towards dawn, I started backing up every crucial file. Each click felt like loading bullets into a chamber. Cold, precise, methodical. They might have taken my credit, but they hadn't erased my proof. Daniels had betrayed me openly, arrogantly, but he'd made one critical mistake. He underestimated me. He'd soon learn how dangerous that mistake was. Days later, calm settled over me. It wasn't peace, it was readiness. I sat at my desk, quietly downloading company emails, project chats, timestamps, everything. My plan took shape clearly in my mind. "Hey, Georgia." Kyle leaned casually against my doorframe, a smug smile across his face. "Heard you've been pretty quiet lately. Everything good?" His tone dripped with false sympathy. My blood boiled, but I forced myself to smile back calmly. "Just busy wrapping things up," I said, my voice level. He smirked, thinking he'd already won. "Good luck," Kyle said, eyes glittering with arrogance. "I'm sure there's another project out there for you, eventually." He walked away, leaving behind his smugness like a bitter taste. If only he knew. That afternoon, as everyone left the office, I stayed behind, methodically archiving more evidence. Every email and message proved one thing. I was the brains behind Daniel's so-called vision. Now I had everything I needed. My finger hovered over a new email draft titled simply, "To whom it may concern." This wasn't revenge. This was justice, clean and sharp. And when it hit, Daniels would realize just how powerful a single email could be. Taking a deep breath, I prepared for the storm ahead. The restaurant buzzed with polite chatter and fake laughter. Company dinners were always tense, but tonight felt charged, like the air before a storm. Sitting quietly, I sipped water and watched Mr. Daniels, confidently holding court at the head table. Kyle, 3 drinks deep, leaned across the table towards another junior associate, speaking too loudly. "Trust me, Uncle already cleared it with the CEO. Georgia was never getting that promotion," he laughed carelessly. "She's too much of a threat." My blood froze. I clenched the glass harder, trying not to react. Kyle's words sliced deeper than Daniels's betrayal. This wasn't just personal, it was planned. They'd singled me out deliberately. Kyle caught my gaze and quickly looked away, suddenly realizing his mistake. Panic flickered across his face, and he abruptly stood, muttering something about needing air. I quietly excused myself too, stepping onto the patio. The night air was cool against my burning skin. My thoughts raced. If the CEO himself had approved this, how deep did this betrayal run? Daniels appeared briefly in the doorway, eyes cold and calculating as they met mine. He knew what I'd overheard. He smiled thinly, returning to his audience inside. I took a shaky breath. It was time to dig deeper. This was war. The next day, I dove deep into company records, carefully piecing together evidence. Each discovery pulled me further into their twisted web. A hidden folder caught my attention. Inside were confidential memos between Daniels and the CEO, openly discussing my ambition as problematic. My stomach turned, reading lines like, "Georgia is talented, but too ambitious. She'll overshadow senior leadership. Consider alternate plans." Each word was a dagger. They'd sabotaged me from the start, viewing my drive and talent as threats rather than assets. My betrayal felt deeper, more calculated than ever. As I kept digging, subtle manipulations became clearer. Intentionally excluded meeting invites, mysteriously deleted files, small roadblocks I'd blamed on coincidence. They'd methodically boxed me in, setting me up to fail. But their arrogance was their weakness. They'd underestimated my thoroughness. Each email, timestamp, and memo I uncovered solidified my determination to expose them. Late that night, I sat alone, screens glowing around me, proof spread across my desk. My heartbeat steadied as anger gave way to resolve. Daniels and the CEO had conspired to silence me, but their secrets wouldn't stay hidden for long. They'd built a house of cards. And now, I held the wind to blow it down. My apartment felt smaller than usual. Evidence stacked neatly beside me, sorted carefully, each file a step towards justice. The weight of their betrayal still hurt, but clarity had replaced shock. I opened a blank email draft and paused. Confronting them directly felt tempting, but reckless. A quick attack would fail. I needed patience, precision, strategy. Instead, I typed calmly, methodically crafting my narrative. Each word was clear, powerful, undeniable. I referenced emails, meetings, and time-stamped records, making my case airtight. The tone was firm, yet professional. This wasn't personal. It was about integrity, fairness, accountability. My finger hovered above send, adrenaline surging. But no, I wasn't ready yet. One final piece of evidence still lingered, hidden deeper within the company. Without it, my email lacked total impact. Breathing deeply, I saved the draft. My decision was made. Wait, gather every possible detail, then strike. My phone vibrated, breaking my concentration. Clara's message popped up. "Rumors flying. Are you planning something?" My fingers flew in response. "Just stay tuned." I leaned back, smiling grimly. Soon, everyone would see how Daniel's empire had been built on lies. And soon, they'd watch it crumble. The office was dark, everyone long gone home. Silence pressed in as I swiftly accessed Daniels's restricted drive, pulse racing. This was dangerous, but necessary. Navigating carefully, I found the hidden folder, titled Strategy Archive. Heart pounding, I opened it, revealing original files I'd created. My name replaced entirely with Daniels's. A sense of triumph surged through me. I swiftly copied everything, timestamps intact. With shaking hands, I double-checked each detail. Perfect, undeniable proof. This evidence was explosive, enough to expose every lie he'd told. As the files transferred, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Panic flared. Quickly hiding the drive, I pretended to reorganize my desk as security approached. "Everything all right, Miss Morgan?" the guard asked curiously. "Just catching up," I answered, forcing a casual smile. He nodded, satisfied, leaving me alone again. Exhaling relief, I secured the last file safely in my personal drive. The moment of truth was close. Daniels believed he'd won, confident and secure. But now, I held everything. My proof was a ticking bomb ready to explode his career. As I left the office that night, darkness swallowed the building behind me. Daniels had stolen my credit, but soon he'd learn the cost of betraying the wrong woman. The next morning, Clara and I met discreetly at a coffee shop away from prying eyes. She sat across from me, eyes wide with shock as I showed her fragments of evidence from my phone. "Oh my God," she whispered, scrolling through the screenshots. "This is even worse than I thought. They really did set you up." "Exactly," I said quietly. "But now I need your opinion. Do you think this is enough to take them down?" She hesitated, scanning each message carefully. I watched her reaction closely, anxiety twisting in my stomach. Finally, she looked up, determination clear. "Georgia, this is solid, but Daniels has friends in powerful places. You need to be careful. Timing is everything." I nodded, taking a deep breath. Clara was right. Patience was key. If I moved too soon, they'd bury me under lies. Still, seeing her genuine outrage reassured me I wasn't alone. As we stood to leave, Clara touched my arm gently. "You can trust me. I'll help however I can." Her sincerity softened the tension in my chest. As we parted ways, I felt stronger. Daniels had tried isolating me, but instead he'd ignited something bigger. Now, armed with truth and an ally, I was ready to take the final steps toward justice. At the next corporate dinner, the room buzzed, tension hanging thick in the air. Daniel still wore his mask of confidence, working the room effortlessly. Kyle hovered close, more cautious this time. I watched silently, sipping water, carefully gauging their movements. My heart pounded, adrenaline building as I considered the evidence tucked safely in my inbox, ready to deploy at my command. Then Daniels approached me unexpectedly, his smile tight and controlled. "Georgia," he said calmly, "I hope you've moved past any disappointment about the promotion. Your time will come." I kept my expression neutral, meeting his gaze evenly. "I'm sure it will." He hesitated briefly, detecting something unfamiliar. Confidence. It unsettled him, his composure briefly flickering. As he walked away, I noticed Kyle watching anxiously. Good. Let them wonder what I knew, what I'd planned. Tonight wasn't the night for confrontation, but soon their illusions of power would shatter. Clara shot me a supportive glance across the room. I smiled faintly, signaling calm confidence. Daniel still believed he was untouchable, unaware his carefully constructed empire balanced precariously on the edge of my single, carefully crafted email. His downfall wasn't a question of if, but when, and that moment was closer than ever. Late that night, alone in the quiet office glow, I opened my laptop, breath steady. My fingers moved deliberately as I crafted the email, the final strike. Each sentence precise, each attachment undeniable proof of betrayal. I wrote plainly, addressing the board directly, "Please find attached documentation detailing unethical actions taken by Mr. Daniels with CEO complicity regarding misrepresentation of work and intentional sabotage of my career. I trust appropriate action will follow." Attaching screenshots, memos, timestamps, and audio clips, my pulse quickened. This was my life's work, reduced to a single devastating email. No drama, just pure, unfiltered facts. I paused, rereading every line carefully. Nothing exaggerated, nothing personal, just truth. My revenge wasn't emotional, it was systematic. Satisfied, I hovered over send, fingers trembling. A single click would change everything. I hesitated briefly, heart pounding in anticipation, but I didn't click yet. Instead, I scheduled the email for the following morning at exactly 8 a.m., ensuring maximum impact and no chance to second-guess myself later. Closing my laptop, calm washed over me. The die was cast. Tomorrow, Daniels would finally face the consequences of his betrayal. I went home that night lighter, stronger. My time had finally come, and nothing could stop me now. I arrived early, nerves coiled tight as I watched the office fill up. Colleagues murmured greetings, unaware their day was about to explode into chaos. At 7:59, my heartbeat echoed loudly in my ears. Every second dragged endlessly. Then at precisely 8, phones buzzed simultaneously throughout the building. Daniel stormed past my office, his face pale and panicked, barely glancing my way. Shouting erupted from conference rooms. Chaos quickly spread, whispers growing louder. Clara hurried over, eyes wide, gripping her phone. "It's everywhere. HR and the board are calling emergency meetings now." I nodded, silent and steady. My heart pounded, but my conscience felt clear. I'd done what had to be done. An email notification appeared, an urgent meeting request from HR, titled Immediate Internal Investigation. It was working. Daniel's lies unraveled with every passing moment. As I stood to join the others in the conference room, adrenaline surged. Daniels appeared at the far end of the hallway, staring at me with burning hatred. But beneath that rage was something new. Fear. I smiled slightly, walking calmly past him into the conference room. Today marked the beginning of his end and the start of my justice. Inside the conference room, the atmosphere buzzed with tension. HR and board members whispered urgently. Mr. Thompson, head of HR, stood grim-faced, documents spread across the table. Georgia, these claims are extremely serious, he began, voice measured but firm. You realize this implicates senior executives, including the CEO? Yes, I replied calmly, my voice steady. And I stand by every word. Whispers erupted around the table, tension crackling like static electricity. I watched calmly, noticing how quickly confidence melted into fear. The evidence I'd provided spoke louder than words ever could. Daniels burst through the doors, frantic and disheveled. This is outrageous. These accusations are completely false, he shouted, voice shaking. But his panic gave him away, eyes darting anxiously around the room for allies who now avoided his gaze. He realized too late that loyalty vanished quickly when lies unraveled. We'll investigate thoroughly, Thompson said firmly, signaling security to escort Daniels out. Daniels glanced at me, eyes wide with disbelief and fury. But his rage was powerless now. As the door closed behind him, the board fell silent. My truth had ignited a firestorm that Daniels could no longer extinguish. Justice wasn't coming. It was here, ready to sweep away every last shred of deceit. 2 days later, Daniels faced a formal inquiry. The room felt heavy, charged with anticipation. Daniels sat, visibly shaken, flanked by lawyers, facing the evidence I'd meticulously gathered. Mr. Thompson questioned him sharply. Did you intentionally misrepresent Georgia's contributions and sabotage her promotion? Daniels clenched his jaw tightly. Absolutely not. She's twisting facts. Thompson cut him off abruptly, playing audio from a call Daniels never knew I'd recorded. Georgia's brilliant but dangerous. Let's ensure she doesn't overshadow leadership. Daniels paled, eyes wide with shock. His confidence crumbled instantly. Silence stretched painfully through the room as evidence piled against him. Anything else to say? Thompson pressed coldly. Daniels sat frozen, speechless. My calm gaze met his panic-stricken eyes, and he knew it was over. As security led him from the building, murmurs spread rapidly through the office. Daniels, the untouchable, had fallen spectacularly. My phone vibrated with Clara's message. He's done. You did it. A deep relief flooded through me. Daniels's lies had finally collapsed under their own weight. Justice wasn't just possible. It was real, satisfying, and powerful. Days later, the CEO himself was summoned before the board. The investigation had exposed his quiet complicity, his fingerprints all over Daniels' betrayal. From my office, I watched silently as board members marched grimly towards the CEO's lavish corner office. Minutes later, shouting erupted, echoing down the hall. He's finished, Clara whispered beside me, eyes wide. They won't let him survive this. The news spread rapidly. Our CEO had resigned, forced out in disgrace. The mighty had fallen, betrayed by arrogance and entitlement. My inbox flooded with supportive messages from coworkers who'd previously ignored me. But their late acknowledgement didn't matter. I'd fought this battle alone, and I'd won. As the news broke publicly, reporters swarmed the building. The CEO's downfall captured headlines, a stark lesson in accountability and ethics. From behind my desk, I watched silently. Vindication filled me, but I stayed focused. This wasn't personal vengeance anymore. It was justice reshaping an entire company. I wasn't just a victim who'd survived. I was proof of the power of truth. With Daniels and the CEO gone, Kyle's position crumbled quickly. The board reversed his promotion immediately. Humiliated, he packed his desk quietly, avoiding everyone's gaze. As he carried his belongings through the office, I felt a surprising pang of pity. Kyle was arrogant, yes, but he'd also been Daniel's pawn. Now he paid for his uncle's betrayal too. He paused near my door, shoulders slumped. I didn't know he went that far, he muttered quietly. But I was wrong. I studied him briefly. Learn from this, I said simply. Earn your place honestly next time. He nodded silently, walking away without another word. Watching him leave, I felt no victory, only the quiet satisfaction of justice served. Clara approached me later, smiling gently. Everyone's talking about you. You've changed this entire place. I smiled faintly, humbled but determined. Daniels had meant to bury me beneath lies and humiliation, but instead, he'd inadvertently revealed something stronger: my resilience, my integrity. My fight wasn't over yet, but now I knew exactly what I was capable of. The scandal hit the news overnight, spreading like wildfire. Headlines flashed everywhere: top executives exposed in corporate sabotage. Social media exploded with outrage, debates raging about power and accountability. I stared at my screen, amazed by the tidal wave I'd unleashed. My inbox overflowed with interview requests and messages of support from strangers who'd faced similar betrayal. Clara knocked gently at my door, excitement glowing in her eyes. "You've become a symbol," she said softly. "Everyone's watching your story. My story." The idea was overwhelming. I'd never sought attention, just fairness. Yet here I was at the center of a storm. Reporters lined up outside the building, cameras flashing constantly. Each news segment dissected Daniels and the CEO's fall, emphasizing my evidence and courage. I clicked open a viral tweet that read, "Georgia Morgan is proof that one person armed with truth can topple giants." Something shifted inside me, pride mingling with humility. This wasn't just personal revenge. It was bigger, about justice and integrity. I'd unknowingly started a movement. As reporters called out my name from the sidewalk, I stood by the window, calm and clear-eyed. My story belonged to everyone now, a beacon signaling that truth would always prevail. Amid the chaos, an unexpected email landed in my inbox from a competitor's top executive recruiter. "Georgia, we followed your story closely and admire your courage. Our company values integrity above all else. Let's talk about your future." My heart skipped a beat. After being sidelined and betrayed, finally, recognition had come knocking, on my terms. We met privately later that week, discreetly in an upscale hotel lounge. The recruiter, a poised woman named Valerie, smiled warmly. "We need your kind of leadership, Georgia. Bold, transparent, someone who's not afraid of the truth." Her words resonated deeply. After years of being silenced, my voice mattered. Valerie presented an offer far exceeding my expectations, a leadership role with freedom, respect, and power to create meaningful change. My mind raced, possibilities unfolding. "Can I think about it?" I asked, trying to hide my excitement. "Of course," Valerie said gently, confident in my decision. Walking away, I felt lighter, stronger than ever. Daniels and his allies had tried burying me, yet their betrayal had instead propelled me higher than I'd ever imagined. Now, I could finally rewrite my future. On my final day, I cleared my office quietly, packing memories and leaving behind bitterness. The company felt different now, shadows lifting in the wake of truth. Colleagues nodded respectfully as I passed, a silent acknowledgement of the price I'd paid for integrity. Near the elevator, Clara hugged me tightly, whispering softly, "We're all better because of you." As the doors closed, I felt an overwhelming peace. Stepping into the fresh air outside, I glanced back only once, my old life fading behind me. Daniel's betrayal had deeply wounded me, but it no longer defined me. I'd survived, reclaimed my dignity, and sparked real change. My story wouldn't end here, it was just beginning. I hailed a taxi, headed toward a new chapter, one I'd write completely on my own terms. Looking up at the gleaming skyscrapers, I smiled softly. The future stretched wide open, limitless. Finally, I was free. Even after I left, echoes of my actions continued reshaping the company. Days later, the board convened an emergency session to confront remaining corruption. From what Clara told me, tension filled the room as they discussed sweeping reforms inspired directly by my courage. Former allies of Daniels scrambled desperately, distancing themselves from past mistakes. Policies promoting transparency and accountability were adopted unanimously, an unspoken apology acknowledging the harm done. Clara texted excitedly afterward, "You should have seen it, everyone agreed. You've completely reshaped our culture." Reading her message, pride surged through me. My ordeal hadn't only exposed betrayal, it had forced real, lasting change. A healthier, more honest workplace emerged from the ashes I'd left behind. Later that evening, an industry news alert popped up. Major firm announces radical reforms inspired by whistleblower Georgia Morgan. I stared at the screen, satisfaction filling my chest. Daniels had tried to crush me. Instead, he'd created an unstoppable force. The industry would never be the same, and neither would I. One rainy evening, my phone rang unexpectedly. A familiar voice greeted me warmly. "Georgia, it's Linda Matthews," my former mentor began softly. My heart swelled. She'd supported me during my early career. "I've watched everything unfold. You made us proud." "Thank you," I replied quietly. Her voice triggered a flood of memories. Long nights spent working together, her steady encouragement when I doubted myself. "I knew you were strong," she continued gently, "but watching you dismantle that toxic mess took real courage." I sighed deeply. "It wasn't easy, Linda. I almost gave up." She paused thoughtfully. "But you didn't. Now you've set an example for everyone fighting unfairness." Her words filled me with gratitude. Linda had reminded me of my purpose, of every lesson I'd learned along this painful journey. I'd faced my past and emerged stronger, wiser. "I'm proud of you," she finished softly. After we hung up, I sat quietly, watching rain streak down the window. The hurt Daniels had caused still lingered, but Linda's validation soothed something deep within. My struggle had mattered. I'd done the right thing, even at great personal cost. Now, finally, I felt whole again. In the weeks following my departure, more employees began speaking out, inspired by my example. Their stories poured into public forums, exposing injustices across our industry. One evening, Clara forwarded a viral blog post titled, "Thanks to Georgia Morgan, I'm finally brave enough to share my truth." Reading those words made my eyes burn with tears of pride. My battle had sparked courage in others, justice rippling outward beyond me. Media outlets spotlighted this wave of transparency, pressuring other companies to rethink their cultures. Suddenly, accountability became a corporate necessity, not a choice. Valerie, my new recruiter, smiled knowingly when we met again. "You've started something remarkable," she said proudly. "People won't forget this." I nodded, humbled yet determined. I hadn't sought fame, but this movement validated every painful moment I'd endured. My decision to fight back had created lasting change, amplifying voices long ignored. As I left our meeting, a profound sense of fulfillment washed over me. Daniel's betrayal had unwittingly birthed a new era of courage and honesty. Justice was no longer mine alone. It belonged to everyone now. Settling into my new leadership role felt empowering. But late one night, sorting through old documents, I stumbled across a confidential file I'd previously overlooked. My pulse quickened as I clicked it open. Inside were private emails implicating another executive, someone who'd quietly guided Daniels and the CEO from the shadows. Shock rippled through me. Just when I thought the truth had fully emerged, another layer surfaced. I reread carefully, disbelief turning into resolve. This person had escaped scrutiny, hiding safely behind others. Anger flashed briefly, replaced swiftly by determination. Reaching for my phone, I dialed Clara urgently. "There's more. Someone else orchestrated everything. It's bigger than we knew." She inhaled sharply. "What now?" I paused, calm washing over me. "Now we finish this, for good." Armed again with irrefutable evidence, I prepared meticulously. My fight wasn't finished until everyone responsible faced accountability. Daniel's betrayal was only one piece of a larger puzzle, and now I'd finally expose it all. At the annual industry conference, I stood backstage, heart hammering. Hundreds waited in the auditorium. Executives, journalists, employees. Today they'd hear the complete truth. Taking the stage, lights blinding me momentarily, silence fell instantly. I began speaking calmly, presenting every detail clearly. Screens displayed undeniable proof behind me. Emails, timestamps, names. Gasps rippled through the audience as I exposed the hidden mastermind. James Emerson, an influential board member admired by many. He sat in the front row, face pale with panic. "This culture ends today," I declared, voice steady yet powerful. "No more hidden betrayals. No more silencing truth." Applause erupted, deafening and supportive. Emerson quickly exited, surrounded by stunned colleagues. Stepping off stage afterward, relief overwhelmed me. I'd faced down powerful adversaries, exposing corruption openly. Justice had triumphed, finally complete. Clara hugged me fiercely backstage, eyes shining. "You did it," she whispered proudly. "You changed everything." I smiled softly, grateful yet humbled. My courage had transformed betrayal into lasting strength. Days later, headlines announced sweeping legal actions. Daniels, Emerson, and accomplices faced consequences they'd long avoided. My story sparked reform everywhere, permanently reshaping corporate culture. Late one evening, reflecting quietly at home, I received an email from Linda. "They tried burying you, Georgia, but instead, they planted a legend." Her words resonated deeply, capturing my journey perfectly. Daniels intended to erase me, yet his betrayal had instead solidified my legacy. My struggle wasn't only personal, it symbolized a movement toward accountability and justice. I smiled softly, peace settling deeply within me. Betrayal hadn't defined my story, strength had. Each painful moment forged me into someone unbreakable, fearless, ready to inspire others. Closing my laptop, I stepped onto my balcony, gazing upward. Stars glittered brightly overhead, reminding me how even darkness held the promise of light. Daniels and his allies had underestimated me, but they'd never imagined how powerfully my truth would echo. Now, everyone knew exactly who I was,